What is going on, all-terrain nation? Whether it be two-wheel drive, four-wheel drive, or these badass Jeeps and Broncos we all like to drive, this is your all-terrain nation. I am your host, David Boyd, alongside my beautiful co-host, Miss Kelly Boyd. Kelly?
Jazz hands.
Are we jazz hands, huh? Okay, all right. Kelly, it's been a hell of a effing week, man. Like, guys, my filter tonight may be just slightly off. We've both had a hell of a week so far.
And it's Thursday.
I know. So tomorrow's the goal line, right? That's what we're looking for.
Yeah, I may have already told Dave when I logged out of work today that I'm going to drink a lot this weekend. Just going to say, and I poured some vodka on ice tonight. So
no mixtures for you, huh?
I know. I told him I might as well just take a shot of it.
Which you're out
this
of vodka,
is my
right?
last. I've got some downstairs, I think.
Can we convert you to whiskey?
No. Not happy.
Man. Anyways, this is the happy hour. And if you're new to the channel, the happy hour is all things automotive. We may interview overlanders. Like tonight, we got some off-road people. We may be people in our industry of the auto journalism world, and it just may be people that we want to talk to. So I suggest.
Or it might just be us drinking and talking about cars.
Ooh, that would be bad. Trucks. That would be very bad. Just sitting here for a couple hours. Kelly, get off the ground.
Wow. I am a lightweight.
But anyways, this is the happy hour. Be sure to smash the like button for us. We would greatly appreciate that. The old algorithm would really appreciate that. So we do that. And I think our guests tonight would appreciate that because they've had one hell of a week too, but not in the way we've had a hell of a week. They've had the best YouTube week ever. And so let's bring them in. Let's bring in Miss Kim and Jeremy with Down South
Jazz Hands.
See, Jazz Hands. Yes.
The hell, man.
Get with the program, man.
I'll be honest, my estrogen just went way up. I want to shop.
Well, I don't want to see the camera go down. Then if
don't have your doctor have to do some blood tests anytime soon.
Hey, keep it clean for the first 2 minutes, guys. Okay.
That's right. Sorry.
Try to keep this under control.
We're at 3 minutes and 48 seconds, so I think we're good.
Timer's good.
Oh, so it counts that intro.
Thank you. Guys, if you have not, you need to check out their latest video, how to protect yourself while camping. I know I just butchered that. I'm over here trying to look over here. How are you protecting yourself while camping? Because, dude, you guys, I like your channel, and you guys are coming up, and then this last video just it was like an 18-year-old on prom night, man. It just went up.
Yeah, and it looks like it's going to go up multiple days in a row, which is exactly like an 18-year-old.
Yes,
we have to have a break now, but no.
So your next video is just going to be a blank.
Yeah,
just a 2-minute blank, and then we're back.
So I really don't understand it. I was hoping, talking to some YouTube gurus like yourself, you would help us find that magic formula as to how to get a video to go viral like that. And so far, all I can tell is that, if I just put her in a sports bra in the thumbnail with a cop car in the background, that works.
Barely works.
Hey, and man, you guys had a lot of great comments in that video, and there's been a couple nasty ones of people the keyboard warriors back there telling you how wrong you did it and stuff. But F those people, man. But let's start from the beginning because I'm curious. I found you, like I told you guys earlier. I found you, how YouTube does it. Just those. Oh, you like off-road? You like Jeeps? Here's these people.
Check this out.
And I remember watching a couple of y'all's video going, okay. And then, as YouTube does, I didn't hit subscribe. So I'm telling you guys, go hit subscribe on their channel. And a couple months went by, and I was like, where was those crazy couples that I watched? So I somehow found you guys and subscribed and didn't lose y'all next. And you guys have been adventuring like crazy. I mean, like crazy.
A little bit.
I'll let that was kind of this all happened by accident. None of this was ever planned. She had
bought a Jeep by accident.
Yeah, kind of.
Actually, yeah.
So she was in love with Nissan Jukes. She loved the little Nissan Juke.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Had 2 of them.
I've got a 1989. I've got a 1989 Nissan 300ZX. That was my dad's that I'm currently restoring right now. But so she had this little Nissan Juke, and the last one was a Black Pearl edition. We had it tuned. It had 3-inch turbo downpipes and all that stuff. Nice. So I think it dynoed at like 270 horsepower in that little thing.
More than mine. Damn.
And so it was her baby. She loved it. Well, she was sitting at a stoplight and a Charter Spectrum truck. The guy was looking for his cigarettes in the floorboard, hit her going about 70 miles an hour. And so it basically pushed the rear wheels of the Juke up under the driver's seat.
Oh wow.
Oh my God.
She's always been a power lifter and a bodybuilder. And so at this time, she still had a ton of her muscle. Her head snapped the headrest in half. The EMS said they had never seen the headrest break in half at the metal like that. And the doctor told her basically, if you didn't have such large traps and rhomboids to protect your spine, you would have probably broken your neck.
Oh my
And
God.
so when that happened, I just said, all right, no more small cars. We're getting you something that's so big, the whole world's going to see you in it. And so she was like, well, I've always kind of wanted a Jeep. And I was pretty anti-Jeep. There was nothing about a Jeep that I wanted or liked because I never had one. I just thought they were boxes.
Yeah.
She finds one on the car lot, and I wanted her to get this 2017 Rubicon, all stock, great shape, newer. And so she sees this 2012 that has a bumper and a winch and a rear bumper, had the lift already, had 35s already, wheels. And I was like, we don't want to get that. It's probably been dogged and beat the hell out of. I'd rather get, something stock. And so she was like, but I want this one because it's done. Everything's done. I don't have to worry about buying nothing. And I was like, well, okay.
Famous last words.
That makes sense. So, and it was going to save us like $6,000, So I was like, all right, that's the one you want. That's the one we'll get. And so for the first 2 weeks, she didn't get dirty. It was just, she was like, I'm not going to take this thing off road. I'm not going to horse shit. So we
started jumping into Jeep groups on Facebook. That's how it happened. We started jumping in and looking at, and I didn't realize that the Jeep thing was such a big deal, and that Jeep groups or Jeep clubs were such a big deal. And so I joined a couple of the local ones, and so one of them was having a local off-roading trip, and I was like, hey, do you want to give this a try? And he was like, well, yeah, sure, let's do that. He said, you said you weren't going to do it, but sure. He's like, we did. We get it's probably 12 or 15 cars deep, and we get into this off-road park. It's just a little park locally, and we get in there, and the first obstacle is straight up, and it's all mud, and they're just kind of going and spinning and going and spinning. And I was like, that's it. I want off. I want out. Let me out of here. And I'm dead center. I'm 6 deep in dead center. He's like, babe, he's like, you don't just get off. You can't just off there. And I was looking around every which way, like, where can I turn around? He's like, that doesn't work. It doesn't work like that.
Right. Fight or flight kicks in, right?
Yeah. I was panicking. He was like,
and it's usually flight that wants to kick in. Yes.
Yeah. And he was like, do you want me to drive you out of here? Well, me being the independent individual that I am, I was like, well, hell no, I can't let you drive it. I need to figure it out. And so, yeah, I ended up, facing my fears and following the dude in front of me. And, we went up and talked to him and, let him know what I was experiencing as far as my anxiety my first time. And he's like, oh, well, then we've got you, no worries, and
a good club should do that too. They should understand. And I mean, there's a lot of bad clubs out there, and you've got to help your people through it. Cause we had a kid one time jump out of his vehicle. I kid you not. He got in a rut at Windrock,
and we were on a beginners.
Yeah. We were taking beginners out cause we like kind of helping people get going. And this kid, the panic and the fear had set in. I could tell he was over his head. Let him calm down. And finally I said, do you want me to get you out of this? Because he'd been trying for like 10 minutes.
And I experienced anxiety. So I understand exactly where he was. He was in his shutdown. He was like, I can't, there's nothing more. Like, you physically, like, your body just sometimes just goes, nope. No more. If you continue, it's not happening.
The worst thing was in like 15 seconds, I got him out of the ditch.
Yeah. And he was like, that was it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
But once he did that, he was
that's
better.
What happened. Once we told the guy in front of us, he was like, he's like, if you don't feel comfortable doing that, there's a workaround. I was like, oh, there's a way we can do something different. Oh, thank goodness. So yeah, it kind of moved us on out of there.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy that for one that y'all were in a Juke, that you had a Juke, Kim, because I miss my Juke all the time. Like you, I tuned it. I did a lot to it. Was yours a manual or automatic?
Automatic.
Yeah.
His was a manual, and this kid that was graduating high school bought his.
Yep. Was happy.
Literally, like, brought cash, bought it straight off us, and like 2 weeks later was hit and run, and it
Oh,
totaled
no.
it.
Yeah, killed it. Just made me sad.
Heartbreaking.
He made it through okay, but the car was totaled.
Yeah. And Jeremy, the Z, is it the turbo or is it
No, it's NA. But
damn it, this show's getting worse, man. Come on,
gosh.
It is manual. So, but what I'm gonna do is I just my dad gifted it to me. It was his baby. He bought it in 1990. And so I went ahead, and it's at the garage now, and we put on some Sika coilovers and some drill and slotted rotors. I added electric fans to it instead of the belt-driven fan. I think that's really all I've done right now. But the plan is to roll it until that motor gives up, and then I'm just gonna. I know it's sacrilegious, but I'm gonna drop an LT in it.
Nice. Cheers, man.
400 horsepower in that little car will be a dream.
Oh yeah, because that little engine,
that V6.
That little engine's a dog in that thing. Yeah. Even at the time, I felt like it was a dog. But we're not here to talk Nissans. That was my older show. So the bug had to bite you after that, right? Like you guys, like, oh hell, this, because a lot of people, especially if they're streetcar people that like kind of racing on the streets, they get the same kind of fix off-roading, and it's legal. Like, well, I'm not going to get a ticket. You know, like this is fun.
Well, and that was me. I had never been off-road before. I had never done anything like that before. So for me, it was more about me learning to have confidence in the fact that, hey, this rig is built to do this. This is what it's made to do. It's made to do all of these really cool things. But in my mind, I'm like, wait a minute, this is just a car and it's supposed to be on the road and that's all it's supposed to do. But, you know, me really trying to buy into what a Jeep is built for, and especially with the modifications, you know, that took me a while to kind of to let that sink in.
Yeah, that was kind of like Kelly grew up she's from Detroit, and she grew up in a GM household.
I'm not from Detroit. I'm from the suburbs of Detroit.
Let's get it clear. Heart of Detroit.
That's right. 8 Mile.
8 Mile, Kelly. It is up in here.
Being her parents would always lease cars, and when redneck me, when she met me, I'm starting to rip apart a Nissan Xterra I had and just like building it up and having fun. And she's like, "What the hell are you doing?"
I said, "What the hell are you cutting on it for? Like, who does that?" And he's like, "Well, I'm going to do this and this." I was like, "That sounds stupid. Like, why do we cut on vehicles?" And he's like, "No, I got this idea." And like, I'm like, "Well, when you have a torn up vehicle, okay." Like, because we drove, like, to your point, stock vehicles. Like, it was, my parents had a car to drive on the road back and forth to work. And
you're looking for
mom and dad took
reliability,
turns
looking for good gas
getting a new
mileage,
one every year and a half. You know?
And yeah.
Yeah, like, you don't do this. And I told him, I was like, you drive cars on the road, we're not rednecks, dude. We're not rednecks. And we totally are rednecks.
Oh, look at her now, sipping her vodka over ice.
I know. Yeah, but then I took her off-roading and scared the piss out of you when we took you off-roading.
Yeah, one of the first times I went, I was like, it was like the second time I went, I think.
Woolies.
Yeah, Woolies I was not a fan of. And I was like, okay, I'll try it one more time. And then we went to Windrock in East Tennessee, and we're like, stock is all get out Xterra of his. And we have our friends in the back seat. And all of a sudden I hear over the CB, it was like, you got to get it. You've got to get into it because this is muddy. If you don't, you're not going to make it. And I'm like, oh, fuck. And so then he gets into it and you hear, oh shit, you didn't make it. And like, we're sitting like this and we're in a rut. Now the pictures don't do the feeling I had justice, because I swear if I rolled down the window, I could touch the ground when we did it. And like, his buddy, his childhood friend, is on the driver's side passenger seat, or rear seat, excuse me. And he opens the door and lets it slam, and the whole truck does this. And I was like, you motherfucker. And I'm like yelling at his wife and going, your dumbass husband. Da, 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 da. And we're like good friends with him. And it was just like, to this day, we still laugh about the story. But yeah, I stopped wheeling for a few years. We had a child and everything too. So it was like.
And then I put her behind the driver's seat, and after that, she never lets me drive. Much like you guys, I don't get to really drive anymore.
Well, she's got this weird thing, and you know, sometimes I wonder if it's real, but she has this horrible. Well, I know it's real because she vomited on me in a helicopter, but she's got horrible motion sickness. So she's in the passenger seat. I can't drive
control issues
without her. Without her getting sick.
She's about the only one I can drive with because I understand control issues. I'll get car sick.
Well, it's not a control issue. I literally get sick. I mean, I get sick. Yeah, I can ride if it's dark outside or dusk. Then I can turn the wheel over to him and he can drive it. I guess because I can't see the horizon moving. Yeah. Then I can ride it out and I'm fine. But if it's daylight at all, I can't do it. Can't do it. That's why the entire 4,000 plus miles that we did out west, I did every single mile.
Jeremy's over there like,
no, I tried to ask all the time.
Yeah, he tried multiple times, and I ended up with altitude sickness several times while we were out there. And so, when I was sick like that, he was like, "You sure you don't want me to drive?" I was like, "No, the way that I'm feeling right now is like severe. It feels like severe motion sickness, and it was the altitude sickness." I said, "So I can't imagine how I feel if you put me in the passenger seat."
Oh yeah.
But it actually worked out really well because just like you were talking before we started about doing all your editing on your phone. It worked out really well because as we collected footage, he sat over in the passenger seat and started putting some of our videos together, some of the smaller videos for out west, so that he would be caught up and wouldn't have 16 days worth of footage that he had to put together. So it actually worked out really well. He would put the videos together and we'd talk through what to leave out and what to put in, and so it was a good little partnership. So it worked.
Well, and there's nothing like being in Telluride where you guys I know we're at, and coming down from Imogene at 14,000, and then you get down. I drove from there to Moab in a day, and Moab's still about 4,000 feet. But no, I told my buddy, I was like, we got to pull over. I said, this is not working out for me. And I got sick.
Yeah.
And they tell you to drink lots of water.
I guess the dehydration and the headaches. I mean, every morning I would wake up with just a severe headache from the altitude sickness. So
yeah. Well,
I was just going to say, we've got a friend of ours that told us, like, when they go out to Colorado, they get a prescription from their doctor it's not the typical like patch or anything like that. It's you take it a couple of days before you go out there that your body can adjust. And so when we go out there, I'll be making sure we get that because I have really bad altitude sickness where like my body just expels all the fluids in my body and I pee every 15 minutes.
Oh yeah.
It's bad.
We flew into Denver one time to go to Moab, and it was like her and my son was like, we were going through the passes, and you guys know what it's like going through there, but it was May and it was still having blizzards going through there. And man, they every 10 minutes is like, hey, we got to go to the bathroom. We got to go to the bathroom. You're like, because your body's just like,
and he's like, there's nowhere. I was like, I don't know what to tell you. We're going to have to stop somewhere because it's not going to happen.
Yeah. Well, and with us, like when we were in Canyonlands, I was doing that as well. It was usually every 30 minutes, but I was also feeling, and I was in fact dehydrated. So I was drinking down an entire bottle and then I was peeing. And so, when you're talking about, it was just a hot mess. It's just a hot mess. It's just hard to keep up with. Even when you think you're prepared and then you get in there and it's still, it's still a shit show. So
the difference and that's between that and you guys is we were naked all the time.
Yeah,
they were naked most of the time.
Well, hey man, when you're out in the middle like that, who cares? Be yourself.
Dude, in Canyonlands, 100 miles of the White Rim Trail. We passed one person as we came in, and it was a Bronco. It was broken down. On the first part of the trail. I had to throw that in there.
Hey, I'm not a Ford apologist by any means, okay?
So it was broken down, and so we got on in there. And once we got in there, it was pretty much clothing optional the rest of the time because we didn't see anybody. 2 days we didn't see anybody.
Just kept hearing drones flying all around. It was very strange, but
that's strangest thing. No, the poor Bronco.
We didn't know what it was.
The poor guy in the Bronco didn't want us to film him. He was like, "I'd rather not." It only had 1,600 miles on it. And his fuel pump had already went out.
Oh
wow!
So well, they've completely stranded out there.
A lot of issues, but it's new vehicle. It
sure.
It always happens. Wait till they put that new straight six in the Jeep. You're gonna see all kinds of problems with that, but it's a badass motor.
I think it's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, it's we got to test it in the Grand Wagoneer, and for such a big heavy vehicle, it would still get up and go, man.
It was pretty.
That Grand Wagoneer is amazing.
Yeah, if you got $110,000, sure, it's great.
It's funny when we see it in the parking lot at the local Sonic, and I told our daughter who's 12, I was like, that's $109,000 car, and she was like, "What, Mom? That's a house." I was like, "Yeah, not so much in our area anymore.
Not anymore, but yeah,
it's a house, pretty much.
You can live in it." So, how do you guys go from learning how to go up a mud trail to a couple years later, you're going and tackling some of the baddest trails in middle of America there?
Well, you want to take it or you want me to get it?
I guess.
Good friends. So as the Jeep clubs progressed, we met more and more people in it, and it started with Jeep convoys, Jeep meets, into off-road day, off-road weekend, and so we're on a budget. We weren't going to go all in on this because I remember the first conversation I had with her is, hey, what do you think about overlanding? And she was like, what's that? And I said, well, basically you take your car and you go out and camp. She was like, well, that's fucking stupid. Who does that? And I was like,
I thought it was super lame. I was like, why the hell would you camp in your car? Why would you sleep in your car? That's so lame. Only bums do that.
So she's like, we're not homeless. We have jobs. We have a house. So what I did was one of the first videos was of course Trail Recon, just because of the footage that you can get. And I think it was Black Bear Pass. And I was like, look how cool this is. But then we started watching a local group, Cottywomple. And so they were kind of our first. And so I guess what
they were our first that was real that was really relatable, because they had a JK. They were doing trails on the East Coast,
Georgia,
primarily.
So for us,
and they had the rooftop tent, and so then we started. Yeah, it felt like something. Once I started seeing their setup and seeing the types of trails they were doing, because they weren't hardcore. It wasn't off. It was hardcore off-roading, but it was still off-road.
Yeah.
In a way that you could still feel comfortable doing it in just one rig by yourself. And so the more we started watching that, then I was like, okay, well, wait a minute, that's kind of cool. And like you said, going out with in our area with some of the Jeep groups, we started identifying places that we could set up to camp.
So there's a local place here called Brown Mountain Beach Road, and it's all down by Wilson's Creek. Tons of primitive camping. So our thought process was, we're not spending $4,000 on a rooftop tent. Let's fold our seats down. And how personal can I be here?
So I'm assuming you guys already know each other that way. So
right. so the first thing we said was like, man, we were going on this trail and it was raining like hell, and we went to a Jeep group that was just not our thing, and so we just bailed on the Jeep group and went riding down the dirt roads, and we was like, huh, are you in the mood? Yeah. So we flipped the back seats down to see if we could even, if the room worked.
If we could fit.
Yeah.
We're not teenagers anymore, man.
Well, and sure enough, we fit beautifully. And it was a darn good time. You had a roll cage up there to hold on to really get the leverage you needed. And so that's when we told ourselves, you know what? Let's put a fucking mattress back there and go out to Brown Mountain Beach and camp for a weekend and just sleep in the Jeep. So it was so primitive. We had a tarp, and we ran a cable by the tree and ran the tarp over, and that's where we set our chairs in case it rained. And once we got out there, we don't have kids. There's nobody in our life to be ashamed of us.
Right.
So there was nobody out there. So we thought, clothing optional. Boom. Here we are.
Yeah.
Free. It was chilly, so there wasn't a lot of bounce or anything. But so nonetheless, it was the most freeing, wonderful experience ever. It was like Naked and Afraid. We went in, except we had shoes on. I ain't doing that barefoot shit.
But you weren't really afraid.
I don't know.
They hadn't camped much before.
Right. So that weekend was just epic. We loved it. We were like, all right, naked camping. This is our thing. We're doing it. So we had done a few more of them, and at the same time all this was going on, she had become addicted to convoys. And this was right when all the George Floyd stuff was going on. And we're very, very big supporters of law enforcement. As personal trainers, we worked with law enforcement a lot, things like that. So we're very close with them, and we hated to see how they were treated. And there was a local ride, a local convoy on 4th of July to raise money for the local DARE program, because this was when the pandemic hit. So DARE is all funded by donations, and they weren't having events to take donations, so they were going to have to cancel the DARE program. And I mean, I remember DARE from when I was a kid. I don't want to see it canceled. It did something for me. I remember talking about it, So we went to this ride thinking it was going to be packed, and it ended up being 12 Jeeps?
It was more like 20.
Yeah, maybe 20 Jeeps.
So but you're not good at math, Jeremy.
Yeah. Hey, it's not my strong suit, okay? I got a pretty beard.
I mean,
that's all I need. No, but so it wasn't many. And anyway, they raised a couple $100.
They raised so what happened is they raised like $500.
Yeah.
They had called the local newspaper and asked them if they would come and cover it because we were going to be convoying through town. And the local newspaper said it was too controversial to cover. So
to show support for law enforcement.
Yeah.
Right.
So that we were quite disappointed at the turnout. We were disappointed at the lack of exposure. We were disappointed in all of that. And for whatever reason and however it came to be, we've always had a fairly large social media following, and this is before YouTube. We've just done really well. Not sure how it happened. It just kind of came about. And so we said, you know what? We sat here at this exact same table and we said, we were angry about it. And we're like, you know what? This is just bullshit. We've got such a great social media following. Let's just throw it out to our village. Because anytime we ask for something, typically we have a decent response. And so we said, let's throw it out to our village. Let's see what happens. And see, let's put together our own convoy and do the same thing. So the goal when we started this was, okay, we're just going to have a convoy. We're going to get a lot of people together and we're going to convoy from point A to point B, which was going to be about 15 miles. And that was going to be the end of it. Well, once we put it out there, we planned it for like 6 weeks out. And once we put it out there, the amount of response was just absolutely incredible.
Nice.
We immediately had people calling us wanting to sponsor an actual event. At this point, I mean, our goal was to raise maybe
$5,000.
Our goal was
$3 and then $5.
Yeah, our goal was to raise like $3,000 and have maybe 100 cars or 50 cars. I think is what we said, something like that. Something that was better than the other. Once it got started and the planning got started, before we knew it, within the first 3 to 5 days, we had somebody step up and wanted to go ahead and donate $5,000 to sponsor the event. We had all these people messaging us from all over the Southeast saying that they were coming, and we were like, oh, holy shit. Now we need to actually, all this money started coming in. So we ended up jumping immediately and setting up a 501(c)(3), and, because we've started realizing, wait a minute, this is snowballing and this is way bigger than just sticking money in an envelope, and so, yeah, it grew and grew and grew. And before we knew it, it turned into an entire ride and a full day
concert,
a big concert. And we had 5 bands. 5 bands step up and volunteer their time to help to come out and do an after party. And
so long story short, in the midst of the 2020 pandemic, at the hardest part of it whatsoever, we had around 4,000 people and I think 1,000 cars. The convoy stretched over 5 miles.
Over 5 miles.
Yeah, the convoy was over 5 miles long. And
we raised $26,000.
Yeah, $26,000
in 6 weeks.
Congratulations!
Yeah, that's awesome.
So the reason we told that story is because here's how the YouTube thing happened. So one of the people that reached out, you're probably very familiar with GearReport.com. They've got a big YouTube channel, big review website. They review everything outdoor, everything shooting, gun related, just everything. It's about a lot of military and off-duty police officers that kind of run that. He has 50 riders on staff. But so he contacted us because I knew him I had a military Humvee that we restored. And so he's big into the Humvee world. And so he reached out and said, hey man, I see what you guys are doing. And I'm thinking about starting a new Jeep series on my website. He said, I'd like to come down and take some pictures and maybe take some video of your event, if that's okay. And maybe interview some of your friends with Jeeps. And so we were like, hell yeah, that'd be great. So this entire 6 weeks that we're promoting this charity event, we start going live on Facebook and we're doing videos. Hey guys, come on out. This is what we're going to have, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, I am who I am. I'm not going to pretend to be something I'm not. So even though it's a charity, I'm shit, damn, fuck, whatever. I'm myself. I put it on video. If you don't like it, don't show up.
Yeah.
And so we were like that. And so Jeff, he said, you know what? You and your wife are really fun to watch online. He said, have you ever thought about doing any YouTube videos? And we're like, no, I can barely use my computer, And so he said, well, what if, he said, I know you guys are doing that naked camping. He said, you can't do that on YouTube. He said, but what if I just sent you some supplies to use out in the woods and you just video it and send it to me? And I was like, how much do I have to pay for the item? And he was like, no, your review is for the item. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, that's cool. So we went ahead and went out and we had wanted to buy a Blackstone griddle, and someone had given me a really cool Christmas gift. It was a Vessel outdoor flask. You guys would love it. It is a flashlight. It's actually our second review, so go watch that because we're drunk as hell.
And it's lame.
It is an outdoor flask with a flashlight, 2 shot glasses inside of it, compass, and it's glass lined so that it doesn't affect the taste of your alcohol. So anyway, so we got drunk in the woods, and I didn't even have pants or underwear on in any of those episodes. I just had a shirt on so that I would be shown in the picture. And we reviewed those items, and it was the worst filming, worst editing. Yeah, it's that Vessel flask and the Blackstone griddle. So it's somewhere up in there.
Yeah, those two.
Yeah. Oh, you don't. That's our very first episode.
That's our very first one. Yeah.
We didn't even know what we were going to call it during this. So we're like down south, out off. So we got drunk and filmed this thing and sent him out to him, and I thought he was gonna hate it and be like, what the hell? But he said, you know what, man? He said, I've got a ton of riders here. He said, and they can tell you the specs and the length and the measurements and all this stuff. You don't do any of that. He said, and I loved it. So he said, anything you wanna look for, he said, you just let me know. I'll keep an eye out and try to get it to you. And so nice. That's how YouTube started. And at first we were going to just be a review channel. Mm-hmm. And so she kind of hated it. She was like, this is dumb. So since we were going on trips now, that she started liking overlanding when she realized, hey, it's kind of cozy in the Jeep. She was like, let's start filming our trips. And so that's kind of how it happened. So that's why our videos suck. And they're very, very long in the beginning because we had no idea how to edit.
Yeah. What's editing?
Yeah.
No, my first YouTube videos, I would only record for like 30 seconds because at the time YouTube, I didn't know how to edit, and I was just like, well, I can upload that to YouTube and be done with it. And yeah, no, it's pretty horrible. And I mean to like the positions you film from are sometimes like interesting. I will say that.
What do you mean interesting? Look, man,
perfect product placement.
We got no kids, right. Dude. We got no kids.
That's right.
When I'm filming, I try to think, what do guys like me want to see in the video? I want to see boobies, period. That's it.
Hey, man.
Hey, I'm going to review this ring light. There's a titty. That's my method. If you want to know the inside look behind my production value, that is it.
Explains that last video. which was a completely different take, and I'm sure some people in here watching this have seen your last video, but you guys like had kind of an iffy moment there trying to camp in Florida, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, Florida was the gift that kept on giving, really. We heard before we went down there that there were some areas in that part of Florida that had a lot of homeless and a lot of drug-ridden places. So we were kind of prepared for it, but when we checked into part of the track that Katiwampo had chosen, went through Eglin Air Force Base there
to keep you and everything you care about.
I was gonna say you're sharing the audio.
But it was in Eglin Air Force Base, and the reason is there's a spot in Eglin where you can see a C-123 plane that crashed in 1968, I think, and unfortunately it killed the 4 soldiers, but the entire wreckage is still left there, kind of as a memorial. And so it's just really, really something to see in the woods, to see how big that thing is first, and just the history behind it. But so we wanted to see that site, and the Florida Adventure Trail is a brand new trail. It released in November 22nd. This young gentleman spent 7 years putting these tracks together. It's about 60%, I think 60% dirt, 40% pavement that connects them all together. And so we had to stay at Eglin Air Force Base Campground. And we hate staying anywhere that's accessible by road, because you're going to get crowds, you're going to get, people, and we're going out there to get away from people. So when she checked us in at the spot, the lady had already told us that we were the only ones in that campground. And to camp in an Air Force base, you have to watch a movie, take a quiz, and then pay a permit, because there's unexploded ordinances and things like that. So she had already told us we were going to be the only ones there. We'd have the whole place to ourselves. So, that was already cause to say, if I see someone, they're not supposed to be here. Right.
Yeah.
So I feel like I'm taking all the time. You want me to keep going? All right. So
she's just staring at the back of your head. I don't understand what that means, but I'm sure it's something.
So we're sitting by the fire, and you've got this long field of view behind us, and we see this flashlight just kind of moving through the forest. It's not a super bright flashlight, and we're all like, holy shit, somebody's coming. Well, we're the kind of guys that sit naked in beanbag chairs watching Roadhouse naked, eating Cheetos. Just dreaming about the day that we can stop a robbery or a home break-in. So that's the kind of people that we are. And so immediately we'll start turning, go to the truck, get geared up, get our flashlights. It's time to be G.I. Joe ninjas. Because the truth, I
love the Shinobi comment that you made.
Yeah, Shinobi. That's exactly, dude. We were like,
dude,
I was silent.
They were straight up playing like G.I. Joe. They were like communicating back and forth, and like, you get this corner, into threes. You get that corner, I'll get this perimeter. You cover me here, you cover me there, and I'm like, y'all are crazy.
So
they had a damn blast.
So I'll be honest, it was a terrible situation that the cops got kind of injured, and but it was the most fun I've ever had in the woods, honestly, to this day. And well, except when she's, but
these three boys walked around with a damn chubby for 24 hours after that.
I bet they did.
So Bill from Cottywampo, I don't know if people know this, but he's a flight paramedic basically in Harlan, Kentucky. So they've been there and seen everything. And Deb, his wife, is a 911 dispatcher. So, and they do search and rescue. They have tracking dogs. They do all that stuff, cadaver dogs. Wow. So they are just so well rounded. It's unreal. And so as soon as we saw the guy, the first thing is you don't want to let someone come into your camp. If they come into your camp, they can see who's there, how many people you have, and all the stuff that they could come and steal while you're asleep. So as we saw the light coming towards us, we were like, let's go ahead and cut him off and see what's going on. So, we don't all take off in a straight line, you split up, and it's super dark. So we all kind of wait in the dark like little Shinobi ninjas. And then when he gets close, we popped our lights on and said, hey, buddy, what's going on? And so the kid was super rough looking. I'll leave all those descriptions out, but you could tell he was under the influence of something. It was like 10 o'clock at night. And, we asked him, hey, what's going on? What you doing, man? Oh, I'm a hiker. I'm hiking. He had painted fingernails, and his pants were kind of unbuttoned, and he had slick black tennis shoes, like slip-ons. So, he wasn't a hiker. At 10 o'clock at night, where have you been hiking in that outfit?
And he said he left his wife back at camp to cook dinner.
Yeah.
This one won't hardly let me stay at the convenience store in my vehicle by myself when we're out traveling. And this dude has hiked across who knows how. I mean, we couldn't even see their camp, and he left her in the woods to make dinner. It was just very odd.
So we asked him where he was trying to hike to, and he said deer camp. And so luckily, this was the only spot in our trip really we had service. And so I pulled it up, and it was like a 2-hour hike from there. And I was like, dude, you've got a long way to hike. And I said, by the way, do you guys have permits to be here? I said, because you have to take a test and, all that stuff. And he said, oh, no, I didn't know anything about that. I'm like, yeah. So, just be safe. Yeah. We're going to head back to camp. You guys be safe and enjoy your dinner, very nice and cordial. And he's like, all right. And he goes walking back, and you can tell that he's walking weird, and he's kind of like acting like he's half lost in the woods. And so we go ahead and walk back, and we're like, all right, so now we're all on guard because it was very suspicious. He was definitely under the influence of drugs. He didn't have any teeth. Said that he was a soldier for 16 years. He was feeding us all kinds of ramblings. So we were already on point. And 30 minutes later, we see the light coming from a completely different direction in the woods. So he tried a different trail that could come around to the side of our camp. He really wanted to see our camp. And so, again, we cut him off. We get a little closer to him. And again, we're doing it in pitch darkness. And he's only using his cracked phone as a flashlight. So we're doing it in pitch darkness. And then we get about 3 feet from him, and then all 3 lights hit him. And, it should have scared the hell out of any normal person that wasn't high off their butt. But so again, we're like, hey, man, you're back. What's going on? What do you need this time? And he had torn off a little tiny piece of paper, and he had like a putt-putt pencil, the little tiny ones that you'd have at putt-putt or golf. And he was like, hey, man, I was just coming to your camp to see if I could get you to write down where I needed to go to get that permit in the morning. And I was like, okay. And so Bill, looked it up and gave him the town name and sent him back on his way. And this time we told him, we said, hey, we're calling it a night. And that was kind of maybe to kind of flush him out. Maybe he thought he was going to bed. He'd come back again. Well, sure enough. And at this point, we had already talked about, after he walked away, we really would like to see his camp to see how many people are over there. So that we know if we need to worry about 4 people, 5 people, whatever it may be. I don't even know if it's a whole homeless camp.
Yeah.
Right. So we had already talked about maybe going, because you could see this tiny blue light in the forest. So because it was blue, we thought it was probably shining through tent fabric. And so we thought about it. Well, in the meantime, since Deb's a 911 coordinator and Bill does what he does, the second time was very, very off. We knew what the guy was trying to do. He was trying to see our camp so he could see what he could come steal once we went to sleep. So they went ahead and called the police. Well, at this time, here comes the dude again. This time, and it's a long walk, man. This time, he's not using any trail. He is trying to trek straight through the woods. You can see his flashlight like falling over stumps and shit. And so we don't even let him get out of the woods. At this point, we go into the woods and stop him there, and we're firm because 3 times is enough. It's 10:30. They were down at the fire. Some of them were, wondering, like, scared what the hell's going on. And so we tell the dude, what's your problem? What are you doing? He said, I'm sorry, I was running from a black bear. I'm sorry, what? And he's like, yeah, back there by the lake, there's a black bear. I was just running to your camp because I knew you guys had, means of protection. And so we were like, a black bear. And he was like, yeah. And so at that point we said, you know what? Since since there's so many of us, let's walk you back to your camp and keep you safe from the bear. Is that cool? And he was like, yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah. So me and Bill start walking him back. Matt, the other guy with us, said, hey guys, I'm going to stay on this perimeter here. And, because we knew that they were talking to the police at the campsite. So me and Bill start walking back, and man, it is a long hike through Florida swamps, which to me, I was like, guys, I feel like I'm in fucking Vietnam here. What is it? Ferns. Yeah, it was like I wanted to commando up my face. So anyway, so Deb ends up calling us when we almost get to the tent because the guy tells us it's just over the hill. And she calls and says, the police told you guys to come back. They don't want you walking to somewhere where you can get ambushed. And so, so we come back, we wait for the police. And I guess we didn't realize it was going to be such a heavy police presence. But since it's federal, there were 4 federal big Dodge Rams rolled up. And so they asked what was going on. And so we pointed to the little light, and they all took off in a platoon through the woods. All you could see was flashlights going everywhere, trying to find where that blue light was coming from. And it turns out both the people had warrants from out of state. They had crack, fentanyl, and heroin. Wow. So they were just loaded up. And the cops were out there about 3 hours. And apparently, when me and her went to bed, we saw an ambulance coming in. And I was like, that's strange. What's an ambulance doing here? And she said, well, maybe they're just turning around. And it turns out 2 of the officers, as they were getting in their trucks to leave, they started getting lightheaded and tunnel vision. Said they started, their vision started shutting down. So at some point, I guess in that little small tent, that stuff went airborne. Don't know if it was heroin or meth or whatever, but going through all that stuff in that little tent, apparently it went airborne because they had gloves on. But it was hot and muggy. Well, not hot, but it was, I guess, it was sweaty sticky from the hike. Yeah. So, so 2 of the officers had to go to the hospital, and so the next morning, a different group of federal officers come, and it's a shift change. And so they said, hey, we just wanted to let you know 2 of the officers got drug poisoning last night. Don't know if it's fentanyl. Don't know, what it was, but they woke up in the hospital this morning and they're fine this morning. But we need to go decontaminate that area and get rid of that tent. By any chance, can you point us in the right direction? And we were like, dude, you're not going to find it pointing. We'll just take you. Because let's be right. We were nosy as shit and we wanted to see it.
It's good so, here we go.
So here we go, traipsing through the woods with 4 police officers. And we get out there, and man, there's tons of shit in that tent. There's suitcases with all kinds of stuff, boxes of Oreos. Like you could see, it was a bunch of stolen stuff.
I'm sure those Oreos were great with all that fentanyl and everything.
Hey, and the police officer's like, hey, you guys want to take these Oreos with you? These aren't open. I'm like, I'm good. Good, buddy. Thanks.
Yeah, no, we're good. Yeah, no, that's like that's the crazy thing about just off-roading in general is like the people you meet, the stories you get to tell. I mean, most people don't obviously get to tell these kinds of stories, but if you think about like you guys buying a Jeep, which, you know, neither of you seem to kind of not know about, but or you knew of them, but it wasn't like you were in that world. Right. And how many interesting places, people that you've met, stories now that you guys have had. That's
Changed
crazy.
our life.
Yeah.
Completely. I mean, it's completely changed everything that we think about. We
changes everything that we do. I mean, you look back, you know, this happened in 2020 because I actually was in my car accident 5 days before North Carolina shut down for quarantine. So, yeah. So it was a week or 10 days after quarantine that we bought the Jeep. So, you know, we look back and see how our life was, you know, when people talk about pre and post 2020, I mean, it's even more impactful for us than even, you know, the global impact, you know, world or whatever, because our life truly changed. I mean, the people that we hang out with now, the people that we talk to now, the things that we do, you know, the plans that we make, it all revolves around something that has now, it revolves around how our life has been impacted by the Jeep and the Jeep community. So,
yeah.
So what's interesting to me is that based on your story, and correct me if I'm wrong, I could be missing it, but based on your story, you guys didn't do the whole let's get out because of the pandemic. You did the let's go get out because you had a necessity of changing your vehicle from a safer or, you know, to a safer vehicle. And here it just kind of evolved, which is interesting because most people's stories of how they end up like yours is I just needed to get out because I was in the pandemic and all that. So it's interesting to me how that parallels with other people, but at the same point, it's completely different.
Yeah, ours was getting out so that we could really explore and uncover or discover exactly what this Jeep or what this rig is capable of, and growing my confidence with the rig.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I just like being naked, so
I mean,
I was just down for whatever, you know,
hey,
wherever
you
she
know.
wanted to go.
Hey man, I grew up in the 80s. I understand.
Yeah. All right. Same page.
Yeah. So you guys, I mean, so you got your feet wet a little bit, but I mean, to go out west and you guys did it by yourselves. It's not like that's when we've been out west, we went with friends but the idea of like, hey, I'm going to I mean, Black Bear, you guys did Black Bear Pass, right? Or did you not?
Yeah.
That's like,
thank you.
I think it's way overrated. No, it's
not that. It's the cliffy.
Yeah, you know, you have that one sharp turn,
the switchy backs.
But you can get hurt on that trail. I mean, if you're not paying attention, definitely, and that's why you see all the people tumbling down the hills half time. They're talking, they're not paying attention. But then you go to Moab, and now I don't recall seeing you guys do any of the hardcore trails in Moab, but hell,
no, we didn't. I mean, with us being so heavily loaded as overlanders, it just was not wise for us to do it. There's two parts to it actually. Number one, we were heavily loaded, but then also it was hot as balls, dude. It was 106 degrees. It was the hottest Labor Day that they had on record. And we had already spent 3 days in Canyonlands. I was already experiencing altitude sickness and dehydration. All of our camera, we got on fins and things that first day, and all of our camera equipment kept shutting down. I was running the AC on high, and even the camera that was in the window and having the air conditioner running on it, all the equipment kept shutting down. So we were getting very frustrated with the whole situation. We were frustrated with the cameras. The heat was causing us to get very short-tempered. We were getting frustrated with one another. Sure. And finally, I just said, you know, I told you guys, you know, that we did spend one night that we had already had plans on Saturday night to spend in Moab. That was our halfway point to unload the Jeep and to clean up and to restock. Well, on Friday night, we were supposed to camp in Moab. And I told him, I said, that's it. I said, I have to get out of this Jeep. I have to get some air. I have to cool off. I need to take a cold shower. I said, this heat is just too much. I said, I can't do it anymore with the heat. And so we ended up
different heat
nights in the hotel.
And you sound like your grandparents when I say this, but it's a different heat out there.
Yeah.
You can literally feel the moisture just coming out of your skin.
Yeah. And that's just it. But you're not sweating.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sucking the life out of you. And I couldn't even break a sweat so that I could stay cool. And again, the frustrating part was we were there in the middle of the day. And so the heat was terrible in our equipment. So we weren't getting all the footage that we wanted. So it was like, you know what? We're just going to get to the hotel. We'll unload this bitch. We'll go ahead and get everything cleaned up. We'll take some nice showers. We can work on some footage. We can go ahead and catch up with, offloading all of our equipment, making sure everything's charged. And we'll get up early the next morning so that we could hit those trails. But, when we did, but even though we hit Hell's Revenge, the plan was to hit Top of the World that evening. Well, the problem is that by 1 o'clock, the heat was already back up. So even at the end of Hell's Revenge, we started losing camera footage again. The cameras were shutting down. So it was just a really, really rough weekend. And so we had, at that point, we said, well, you know what? It's already hot again. Let's just go back and chill. It's not going to hurt us to chill again in the hotel room. We've got to clean up anyway and repack. And then the plan was to go do Top of the World the next day. But dude, it was just so hot. I was out there airing up and down the tires and repacking the Jeep. And I was just like, this is just freaking miserable. I said, I had already looked at the weather in Colorado, which was less than 3 hours away in Telluride. And I said, fuck this. I said, we are getting the hell out of Moab. It's been grand. We made our mark. We've been here. We've got some footage. We've got a couple badges. Let's get the fuck out of here and get to Telluride where it's 70 degrees.
You can tell Kim's still reliving this. Like,
oh yeah, she's really mad.
It was so miserable. I felt like shit.
She left out a key point. The key point was after Fins and Things, we stopped in and saw Rory, Trailmater. And so he treated us like family, man. He took us to the stop. We got to hang out with him for hours and hours, and just shoot the shit. And he basically looked at our Jeep and he was like, "You're too fucking heavy to be on any of these trails."
Yeah.
He was like, "You need to go to the hotel and you need to lose some weight." He said, "All of it. Take it all out before you get on Hell's Revenge tomorrow." And so then he showed us that he has a sombrero, a GoPro sombrero, and that's how they keep their GoPro cool. They put a big sombrero over it to keep it in the shade, and told us how to keep our phones right in front of the vents and turn them off when we're not using them. And then, so he gave us a lot of help. But the main thing that he said, he gave us 2 pieces of advice. The first piece was go back to your room and take all that shit out of your Jeep, refrigerator, everything. Take it out. Yeah. Because I don't know if you've seen our setup, but we're different than most overlanders. We don't buy rooftop tents. We don't want to be off camber with top heavy. Yeah. We don't want to have ladders that you have to climb down in the middle of the night to take a shit. Everybody
clean over, man. You just hang it over.
Yeah. Everybody in a rooftop tent that sleeps with us on the top of a mountain bitches about how cold they were and the wind noise and the rain noise. Guess what, folks? We sleep in our Jeep on a 6-inch memory foam mattress. It feels like a Holiday Inn. It's so compact that we sleep naked, and it can be 20 degrees outside and we can cover up with a sheet and we're warm. Wow. Like it holds the heat that well.
Yeah, all the body heat in that vehicle does probably help a lot. Yeah.
And so it was so funny because this trip with Cottywomple, we were with a bunch of new Gladiators with roof nests and eye campers and $50,000 worth of gear. And it took us 4 minutes to set up. 4 minutes. Once we got to camp, we're like, there we are. Everybody else was still like staking and tying and wrapping. And the next morning,
really all we have to do to set up is pull our chairs out.
That's it. We take our chairs out.
Because the mattress is folded over like a taco. So all I do is snap 2 straps that I have on it and it folds out. And we don't do that until right before going to bed because I need to get the fridge and that sort of thing for food. But so there's nothing really for us to get ready. The only thing that takes a little time if we have to is deploying the awning, but we don't necessarily do that unless it's raining or something.
Right. And you guys, I did learn that you need to take extra fuel. I did watch your videos where it was getting a little iffy on fuel.
Dude, she was panicking. I'll be honest. She kept mentioning
stuff. I don't blame you.
Gas, babe. What about the gas? Hey, did you see the gas? Yeah. How do you think we are on gas? It's 37 by 42 to carry the 1. How do you think we are on gas, babe? It was freaking
because it was gas and water. Because I told you I was drinking full bottles of water every 15 or every hour, and so it was full bottles of water as well. So the water was running low, the gas was running low. We had not seen anybody at all, so that was that was a little nerve-wracking. So that's kind of where we were.
Nice. Well, I mean that's that's part of the adventure, whether you you wanted to have that part of it or not. But that's a story for like, hey guys, I was in the middle of a desert, literally, and no fuel. Like, what did you do?
And trust me, we've got
and it goes back to, you were talking about, we went out there all by ourselves, and so I had researched and I had planned and I had check and recheck, and watched so many videos and read so many group posts and had been in so many Facebook groups and read as much as I could to try to make sure that we were prepared and had everything that we needed. And even with all of that research and thinking that we were, completely ready, I mean, that just goes to show that, that
the first night was the real kicker. The first night was the first mistake in the whole thing.
That was the most challenging part.
Yeah. If you watch the very, very first episode of When We Get Into Canyonlands, the thought process that we had, because we had went to the Dinosaur National Monument, and knowing what we know now, we should have skipped it because of time. But if you look on the map, our camp, Canyonlands, has what, 3 camps?
12.
12. See, I'm not good at math. Dang. So Canyonlands has like 12 camps. That's it in the entire park. And so you have to register for those way ahead of time. And so our camp, we knew, was 20 miles from the entrance. So 20 miles. You're thinking, okay. I was thinking national park, nice dirt road.
Well, and even on the videos that we had watched, the dirt roads did not look complicated.
Right.
They did not look challenging.
2 hours.
Editing like makes everything look nice.
Yeah. So we thought, okay, we need to be there by 4:30. 5:30, 6:30, be at camp 6:30, boom, done.
And that's even giving us 2 hours to travel 20 miles, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we get there at 4:30, and camp is 20 miles away, and we get to camp at 11:30.
Yeah, 11:30.
Wow.
Took us that long to go that far. In the dark, you can't see anything out there. There's no light pollution whatsoever. Nothing is very well marked in Canyonlands. You may find a rock or two every now and then that blocks. Like if there's a trail that's blocked, they'll put one tiny rock there. Don't go over that tiny rock. So
all these vehicles can go over this tiny rock, but don't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it would stop the Prius, but nothing else.
I mean, there was multiple times that the trail was somewhat confusing, and so he would get out because I couldn't see over. When you're coming up top and all you see is blackness, and that the white rim, like the canyon, is right there somewhere. You don't want to take a chance of just trusting that darkness as you crest it, right? And so he would get out with the flashlight. And there was one time that we both got out with flashlights because he almost walked off the edge of the canyon.
A canyon.
He was walking and it was so dark, and he's like, "Oh shit, there's the canyon." Yeah, and he was right on top of it. I mean, it was so nerve-wracking.
So what would you tell people though that want to do something like that? What would you say, people in your position? What would you change about it? How would you prepare a little bit different for that?
The only thing I would change about it is taking more fuel, because we did have a positive experience. Now, could it have gone a different way? Yeah, absolutely, because we were out there with no service whatsoever, 100 miles, and we ran into one person. So it could have gone very, very badly, 100%. And I'm not alarmed if people watch that video and are like, you know what, those were dumbasses. What the hell were they thinking getting out there by themselves?
Right.
So would I tell people, hey, don't go by yourself? I don't know. It depends on their skill level. Yeah. We're not terribly skilled. I still think of myself fairly as a beginner a lot of times. I don't feel like I'm this huge badass, but at the same time, I think you need to over prepare, do the research, over prepare more than, because that's the only part that we were short on, is potentially having, because if something bad had happened while we were out there and we had to spend a whole nother 24 hours out there, it could have gone very, very bad for us.
Yeah. So maybe add 20% more fuel than what you probably thought. And
so, at the end of the day, I wasn't as worried, I guess, as I should be, because we still had like 5 days of food in the Jeep.
Right.
And, I knew we had seen someone when we drove in. We hadn't seen anyone in the park, but when we drove in, we saw the broken Broncos. So I figured, worst comes to worst, we're stuck in a beautiful spot until we see somebody pass. And we've got 5 days worth of food, so I'm sure we'll see somebody.
Somebody would have passed at some point, hopefully.
Right. So
vultures.
So I wasn't super worried.
Hey, and there are bear out there, by the way.
He's seen them, apparently. Didn't get a picture, but apparently.
You sound like a meth head in Florida is what you sound
like.
No.
We went the trip I was at Telluride and we drove to Moab. We camped right above from Moab to Colorado. You're coming out of the mountains. So we're just right outside of town. Yeah. We packed up rooftop tent, folded it up. We had to be in Vegas. We had to be in Vegas that night. And so my buddy's bombing through the service roads, and all of a sudden a little black bear stands up. He's in the middle of the road. I don't know if there was something dead there he was messing with. He stands up, looks at us. My buddy's driving. I'm trying to get my phone out as fast as possible. It's 5.
Sure.
Well, it's 5 a.m. So, you're kind of thinking when you've seen this, like, I'm not really seeing a bear, but the bear stands up. And as soon as I got my phone out, he darts down the hill. And I was like, only time to see a wild bear.
I thought you were saying you saw it in Utah. Colorado, you probably did see it.
No, this was in Utah. Right above. It was right above Moab.
All right, you're full of shit, but okay. All right. So
I wouldn't say where you guys were at. There's bear though.
All right. So here's where the real issue was. We figured enough gas under normal circumstances. Here's what people need to know. When we had to put the vehicle in 4-wheel drive, and you're going in 4-wheel drive at a very, very slow speed over the course of 4 fucking hours.
Yeah.
I think I commented on your video about that too, about like 2-wheel drive, man. Yeah.
You're burning through a ton
and that's
of
what
gas.
we did, and that's where our
math was off.
Well, and that's where our kind of newbie mentality kind of got us. We just didn't think that through.
Yeah. And I can see that. Definitely can see that. You just don't pay attention to that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we thought that we had plenty of gas. And looking back, if we had to do it over, knowing what we know now, I would have just stayed in 2-wheel drive much more often. Yeah. I just left it in 4-wheel drive just because I knew that it was safe and I knew that I wouldn't have to worry or really think about it. So I just left it in 4-wheel drive. I would have, what I would do next time is I would keep it in 2-wheel until I knew that I had to use it for 4-wheel. Yeah. Because I just did it just because it was easy and it was better than just changing back and forth. And then I knew I always had grip and I never had to worry about it. But looking back, I could have drove.
Honestly, it sounds like common sense saved you too. So, I mean, a lot of people, I can't say that a lot of people would have gotten out like you guys did and were like, hey, I can't see. Some people are just going to trust the trail. So the fact that you guys were like, nah, let's check
it out and walk. Yeah. Let's walk around
and walk it.
See what's going on. Yeah. Because even though the second day that we were going to on the day that we were going to our second camp, we drove a huge chunk of that trail in 2-wheel drive when really we probably needed to be in 4-wheel. We made it work because I was like, not unless I'm in a bad situation am I going to put it in 4-wheel now because of the gas situation. But there was easily that first night we could have been in 2-wheel a lot more, and we could have.
You're probably running hot a little bit in the vehicle, and just because it's working.
The vehicle didn't run hot until our trip home. Actually,
all the dust,
the dreaded oil cooler.
Yep,
the Jeep oil cooler.
Yeah, we actually started overheating when we were pulling out of Montrose to head home. The mountain that we had to climb to get on the highway to head home. It was just a long, hard climb, and it just kept going and going. And all of a sudden, all my lights came on, everything shot red. And I pulled it over, and we sat there for maybe 5 or 10 minutes. He's like, let's take it back to Montrose, because we were about probably 15 miles from Montrose, I guess, and that was the closest town for a while. So Jeremy was like, you know what? Let's throw the heater on. Let's let it ride down the mountain. Let's go back and yeah. So we were really low in coolant, and it ended up being the oil cooler needed to be replaced when we got home. But so out of all of that, all the ups and downs and all the things that we put Bella through for that trip, she did great. It wasn't until we were on pavement heading home. And then what we did was we did end up staying the night in Montrose that night, just as a safety precaution, let the Jeep cool off and that sort of thing. And so we got up that next morning and left when it was cool, and we made it fine. We didn't have any trouble.
Nice. Well, part of the appeal, I think, for you guys' channel is that you're honest about these trips. Like your videos, you guys lay a lot of this out, which I think a lot of overlanding channels don't want to do. They don't want to look like they made mistakes and stuff. And, you know, editing makes I can make the perfect trip. And I would rather see people make mistakes. And as you got, I mean, like you said earlier, Kim, you don't approach this as like, I'm a badass of off-roading and I know everything. Like, I've done this for 25 years and I can learn off of a new person that's going through some obstacle a different way than I would have thought about it. And it makes me think, oh, well, yeah, that's an option. Or, you know, you can always obviously help others that need it as well. But I like the fact that you guys are who you are. You're not trying to put on, you know, airs about you, and your videos are just honest. And I do have to ask the big guy though, why are we reviewing Apple Watch bands?
Well, I'll tell you.
I knew it was
I'll tell you
out.
right now, Dave. I've never wanted an Apple Watch before until this bad boy came out, and I'm gonna tell you what, I love it. I freaking love it. So why?
Normally I have mine on. I'm not gonna lie, I have one.
So do you have an Ultra?
No, I'm a basic 3 bitch.
No, do the Ultra. It's gonna be a game changer.
Basic 2 bitch.
No,
so
I'm a bitch.
So I love it. So what we're doing with the channel, you're going to bring up something. Nobody else has heard this yet, but you're going to bring up something with our channel. So this year, our channel is going to be changing a little bit, because
the big guy's breaking out the thong.
Yeah. So that's already happening. You're just on the wrong site.
Yeah.
But so our channel's changing a little bit, and it's not because we're changing. It's because in the winter we don't get out in the woods as much. Yeah. And we actually just really enjoy these videos. I've said before, we don't have kids. We enjoy making them. We have fun editing. We have fun, you know, picking music together. It's just something fun for us to do. So what we're going to do, we put our first episode out day before yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So our first episode went out the day before yesterday. We came up with a new series called Odd Places and Curious Spaces. And so, yep, that's us. We weren't drinking during that interview or that intro. It's like a bad VHS school promo is what that is. It was the worst acting ever. We did it in one take. And
well, you know, you said earlier that what you like about us is that we're very real and very authentic. Yeah. This is why, because when we try to act, this is what we look like.
Yeah, this was the worst thing ever. But when she watched it, she was like, "Oh my God, that was horrible. We have to keep it."
I was dying laughing. I was like, I can't stop laughing at it. So you have to keep it.
So for Odd Places, Curious Spaces, what we want to do is, because we do still enjoy traveling. I've traveled my whole life. We love staying in random places, random Airbnbs now. And so we're going to pick at least once a month, we're going to pick a random Airbnb somewhere that's got a cool little story or something curious or odd about it. And then at the same time, we're going to go out around and show some of the local businesses, because we're real big on local business. And so we're going to showcase some of the local businesses and things like that in the town, and then put those out. And that way, if there's, you know, overlanding is a small niche. So this way, if there's folks sitting at home and they're like, fuck, I'd love to just have a weekend somewhere different. Mm-hmm. You know, Bristol's not somewhere that someone would think of, but I promise you, I'm going to be back to Bristol quickly.
Yeah,
we loved it. The Blackbird Bakery alone is worth the drive.
There's a restaurant in Bristol. I don't ever remember the name of it, but you look at the mountain, you're kind of just on the outskirts near the track. I think it's near the track, but it had the whole front of the restaurant's this like double decker, just all glass. Like you get to see these mountains the whole time you're eating. The best shrimp taco I've ever had was in that town, man. I love that town.
So that's what we're going to do.
Yeah. And what the reason, and this kind of goes back to, you know, like with 2020, everyone, like you said, Kelly, everyone got outside, everybody started exploring, you know, that forced them into something new. And that also, we've all seen, all of us here on YouTube, we've seen an explosion of YouTube channels during that time. Mm-hmm. Everybody thought that they could do YouTube, you know, hell, even we did it. We didn't do it because of that, but you know, as we've told you how our hours evolved. Well, what we've noticed is in the last year, as everyone has gotten back to normal, there's a handful of channels that have really been able to stand out as an off-roading channel or as an overlanding channel. And those handfuls of players are doing really, really well at those jobs. Mm-hmm. Those of us that are in the smaller demographic, like we are, we're struggling to kind of really take off in that area, because now that everyone has kind of gone away from doing it and getting back to real life, they go to these main channels for that type of content.
Yeah, they don't have as much time to look at everybody's channel.
Exactly. So with us, our overlanding, we've noticed that, of course, our overlanding videos, they don't necessarily do as well as far as our views as our reviews do. Our reviews do really, really well. But our overlanding, we don't, as you said, we don't put in a bunch of fake cinematic, build this beautiful picture with our overlanding videos. Our overlanding videos are truly our authenticity and our memories and what we seen and experienced. And so Jeremy said at the beginning of the broadcast that, oh, I'm going to get dementia. And we laugh about that. But the reality is there's going to come a day that one of us or neither of us are going to be able to do this any longer, to be able to travel like this. And so we want to be able, when we're 80 years old, to sit back on the couch and watch these videos and be like, oh, yeah, remember when we did that? Or, haha, look at, remember when we did these things. And so
remember when we were young and able to.
Yeah. And so for us, the overlanding videos, while they may not be beautiful and cinematic, they are our depiction of what we experienced, and we want
your art
that way. So if
it's your art, man, whether you think videos are art or not, that's your art. It's how you saw the world.
If someone can get pleasure in watching that, then great. But ultimately, those videos are for us. That's our album, right?
Well, and I can see why, Kim. I can see why your product reviews do well. I'm just saying. I don't know much.
I know. I mean, that camp cabinet really is such a badass piece of equipment, though.
Yes, I can tell.
Just look at that.
It's big. There's lots of compartments there. Yeah, I understand that totally.
Lots of storage.
You can stuff so much stuff in there, Dave. So much stuff.
So yeah, so that's kind of, we really started to evaluate our channel over the last several months and try to think of, because as you all well know, a YouTube channel is very time consuming, yes. For it to be successful. And so we wanted to really start to hash out, okay, where is the best use of our time? And so as Jeremy's been watching the analytics and seeing that our reviews do really well, the other thing, like he said, is he travels so much for work. He's gone so often, so it becomes very challenging for us to put the overlanding videos together. So for us to remain relevant and to have a constant flow of content, we had to kind of come up with something else. The reviews, those are easy for us to do. We've set up a home studio and we're starting to do those more often. But the thing that's easier for us is to, when he travels like this, to kind of piggyback an Airbnb off of maybe one of his trips and then tie that in there. And that makes it, and there's a ton of Airbnbs in our surrounding area, with us being in the foothills and near Boone, Blowing Rock, Asheville, we're very, very convenient to those places. And those are all big touristy areas, obviously. A lot of folks flock here for that. And so it makes it real easy for us to kind of capitalize on that content.
Hey, so y'all are near Boone, Appalachian State, right?
Yeah, we're 20 minutes from there.
I have to say they destroyed her Michigan Wolverines once, and I really appreciated that.
That was a big deal. The streets were like crazy.
I bet it was for that town. I bet that was huge.
I almost went to Appalachian State. All I'm going to say about that.
Almost doesn't count. I didn't mean to interrupt your.
No, you're good.
That was a good moment for us. So, and it made her feel bad. So we're happy about that.
Hey, it put Boone on the map, man. Like, really.
Kidding, Kelly. I'm kidding.
It's all good. I'm used to the abuse.
I'm an Ohio State fan. She's a Wolverines fan, so we fight once a year, and then we don't care, honestly.
Yeah.
So,
or unless we're fighting to try to get both of our teams to the big game,
which would have been a great national.
Would have been an amazing national championship, but it didn't.
But all I got to say right now is Houday. But so you talk about product reviews and stuff, and I think that's you guys aren't trapping yourself. People really do not understand how much work YouTube is. Like this is not a full-time job for us yet. I'm a land surveyor engineer by trade. Nice. So, but I come home and she knows I'll put 30 to 40 hours a week just in this, trying to, like you're doing research. You got to try to stay relevant. You got to research what's going on.
Your channel's a lot of research, a ton. I can't imagine.
It's a lot of half-assed is what it is. Don't give me too much credit. No, but it is. And we have a family besides this. It's like, and I think when you start seeing like the negative comments that you guys might have got on that last video, there were some assholes in that.
But we love it.
Oh, no, I know. Because Kim, you were like, no, I love the interaction.
Oh yeah.
YouTube loves the interaction.
Give me all all the algorithm stuff.
But early on, I will say, like, I would fight and protect my baby. I was like, fuck you, man. This is you don't know what it's like to spend an hour. And have you guys noticed if you put a lot of love into the video, it never does anything. You just like throw the camera out in front of you for 10 minutes.
That's
like,
exactly
what happened.
That is exactly what I'm talking about with our overlanding videos. We will put hours and hours and hours. And now that he has me voicing over a lot of our videos, then it's him editing, or of course collecting the footage, then him editing, and then me going and watching, and then me doing the research for the voiceover, and then him coming back and doing the music. And so between the two of us, we're putting a ton of time in those videos. And so exactly like you said, those overlanding videos where that's our heart and our soul, and we're loving it, and we're like, oh, this is so beautiful and this is great, and then it freaking
it doesn't do anything.
We're like, and then this damn little video that he just put out that was 6 damn minutes of police recording, and it's fucking exploded. It's gone viral, and I'm like, seriously? Of all the videos, that's the one.
I don't even think I put any music to it.
Yeah, it's just like
that's like he has a short that he put together, and it was literally like this
dumbest
Bronco. The overpriced Bronco. What did that one end up getting? Like 70,000 or something views?
Yeah, shorts are a whole nother monster, man. I literally filmed a tire on I was bored at work one day, and I was like, I'm going to film this BF Goodrich tire that I have. I'm going to put 15 seconds. And I put it up, and it got like 10,000 views in a couple minutes. I was like, what? People are so dumb. Like,
but that's it. Short form content's where it's at. It's so frustrating. I can't bring myself to do it, frustrating.
It is. As a person, because I love editing, I think if this channel ever was big enough that I didn't have to, I still would want to do it. But
I edit at work, and I can edit at work because it's technical, it's not artistic. But I can't do the artistic editing that he does. Like I can't.
But anyway, like it kills my soul to do a short, man. To like because I will go to 15 seconds and that's it. Because there's some longer form shorts, but I notice they don't do well.
Right.
And I'm like, because I know I get on Instagram, it's like bikini girl, off-road truck, bikini girl, off-road truck. And I'm like, but it's like every 3 seconds, but it's every 3 seconds of like,
now he's got both.
Well, okay. Well,
I'll get it. I mean, with the short form content, it literally sucks you into the rabbit hole. And before you know it, you've wasted 2 damn hours of your life sitting there doing nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh no, not Tinder. The what's TikTok?
Somebody just
we keep an eye on our friends on Tinder.
If Kelly's look could kill. So that time I was on Tinder.
Yeah. No, but
Tinderoni, that was a good one.
But TikTok, man, it's like I'll spend 45 minutes and not know a damn thing I looked at.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, like the culture now, it's hard to get their attention. So with your video of nearly 150,000 views, that's freaking awesome. And has the retention been good on that video?
I think it's only like 4 minutes. So a 6-minute video, they couldn't.
Yeah, that's not bad though.
That's pretty good.
So
because I've done some 20-minute videos, and you're like, you get that like 4-minute retention. You're like, what the fuck, man? Like I spent longer doing this and I'm going to get in watch hours.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sure. No, it's at 159. I don't understand.
Yeah. It's crazy. Hey man, enjoy it. Because
I couldn't figure out what that was. Yes, that's a stormtrooper. Mobile Moto. Yes, that's a stormtrooper. I was like, what the hell are they talking about? Are they calling me a stormtrooper? What the fuck? And then I just realized
if you look behind us,
we
went to a paint and sip, and you'll see Kim's painting under mine.
That's what it was supposed to be.
It was supposed to be Starry Night.
Yeah.
Right. And I just painted a stormtrooper and Baby Yoda.
Yeah.
Hey man, it's amazing what people watch these videos, how they're trying to figure out your life.
We should have look at your
background.
I know.
That's
I thought
why
about
when they
bringing
said
her out.
stormtrooper, I was like, the cow? Like the Cat's King cow? Like, is that what you're talking about? Like,
so I have a serious question for you guys.
Avocado?
Where are you at with these little fuckers?
I fucking hate
them. Are we saying it? Okay, I thought we were going to be PC.
No, I fucking hate
Ducks are fine. Ducks are fine.
So you're Jeepers.
If you're anti-duck, you can get in some trouble. So ducks are fine.
But what is it about?
I don't know what she's talking about. Ducks are fine.
I fucking hate him.
I went to a Jeep press event and Jeep was handing these bastards out, and I'm like,
and we brought them back for our Jeep friends.
which they didn't like either.
Because
by the way.
we literally reduck other people with the ducks we get ducked.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't
100%.
want this. Here, enjoy
That's what
it.
I try to do as well. I tried to recycle them, but like when we went on this last trip, I had a dash full of them, and I was like, you know what pisses me off is I hate throwing them in the trash because all these stupid ducks are ending up in the landfill. So I'm like, I've already decided that this year I'm going to make a sign and put it on my Jeep that says something to the effect of, I'm really glad that you love my Jeep, but please don't put your duck on here because it's going to end up in the garbage.
Yeah.
You realize you're
We're
going
not
to end
doing
up
that.
having like
We're
10
doing
times
that.
the
We're
amount
not
of ducks
doing
in
that.
your truck.
Yeah.
Well, no, I just don't want it to go in the trash because that's where it's going. It's going in the trash, and I hate to do that.
Yeah, no, I've yet to figure that one out. I've been around.
Here's the thing: I was really into it, and I actually bought us a supply of ducks when we first got it. Here's what happened: I was so excited about it, and I had all these ducks, and they were up in the dash. And I've got that little media bar that's up there, and so they were all hanging out behind the media bar. And so we went off roading, and all of a sudden I hit something really hard, and when I did, I came up. Well, there was a fucking duck explosion, and it scared the living shit out of me, and that was the end of it. That was it. I was like, that's it. I was like, I'm gonna die from a fucking duck explosion. And so they were
We got Adventure Rust watching.
yes,
too.
exactly. They'll find rubber ducks and they'll be confused. Exactly.
Yeah, but I have yet to figure out all of a sudden why at first I remember years ago they started popping up. I was like, oh, that's kind of neat. But you go to like Jeep Invasion. So you guys were at Jeep Invasion. We were at Jeep Invasion.
Yeah.
I took my Gladiator down there.
We reducked every duck we got.
Yeah, I kept finding ducks on my thing, and finally we did the whiskey.
No, we
the
did
moonshine.
the moonshine tour.
We did all the in Gatlinburg. We did all the moonshine stuff, and by the end, dude, I was hammered.
But
I had all these ducks in my pocket, so I just started throwing them, like hoping I could like Jordan out there, just like, can I get them in people's?
Yeah,
many of them.
And then I confused a lot of people. I started high-fiving people. Like I was hammered.
Crisp high five is what he called it.
But I was running out in the middle of the road, just high-fiving people. And you could tell like the people that weren't having any of it. And there's a lot of, at those events, there's a lot of people that are there to have fun. That's their vacation. But there would be, you'd be like out there and they'd be like, no, fuck you. I'm not high-fiving you.
But then, he's drunk as piss. And somebody goes, you realize that was just a cop you high-fived? He's like, okay. And
who cares, man? Like have some fun. But we did. There's an Irish bar. Well, is it Irish bar anymore?
Yes.
In Gatlinburg itself, dude.
Oh, somethings.
You have to call it a pub. You can't call it a bar.
Pub. An Irish pub.
Technically, I don't think there's anything Irish about this place, but
no.
Dude, I was so hammered. I was a traveling musician. Kelly was in music management, and you were a singer as well. And I hate karaoke with a passion. I don't hate people that enjoy it. For me, this sounds snobby, but it's
overanalyze everything.
It's a lower form of wanting to be a musician in my books. And dude,
you just lost 8,000.
I know there went all my subscribers.
Negative subscribers now.
But I was
fuck you, Dave.
Yeah, right. Is there a fuck you button on there? But I was so hammered. We were singing karaoke, having a blast. The Jeep. I got you up there. But I will say the Jeep Invasion stuff, that was a good time, man.
Yeah. This was our first year going. We had not been able to go because the 2 years prior was when we had our Back to Blue event scheduled. It just happened to be. And so, yeah. So that was our first time going as well. We had a freaking blast.
Are you guys planning on doing it again this year?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, because I didn't realize the after party thing.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that looked like a fun time, man.
And that was our first video that did really well, really quick, was we threw together an after party video, and it took off as well.
I mean, it got like 10,000 views, but not like this.
No.
None of our content did shit from Jeep Invasion.
I honestly, though,
content did just the after party.
Well, you're Bronco people, right?
Do what? No, we took the Jeep.
We took our Gladiator.
But your channel, though, was your channel predominantly Broncos at the time?
Well, that's what kicked this one off. Yes. I mean,
they're doing a Bronco invasion.
He's going.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm kind of excited about that because it's before the Jeep one, so I figure you get you warmed up for the next week. But they do that's a great event. And I've never seen that many freaking Jeeps in my life.
And for it to come together so well organized and so I think they had very few issues.
I was gonna say minimal craziness.
Yeah. Well, it was so hot. Once again, like you guys went from hot Tennessee to Moab.
Yeah.
What was the highlight of that for you guys?
Moab or Jeep
invasion? the Jeep invasion.
Probably the after party.
Yeah,
it was probably the after party. The after party was it was different, and it was just so fun. You know what it reminded me of? You know, I'm an old racer. You know, I was doing that shit before Fast and the Furious came out. So in my head, I feel like we were doing it before it was cool. And so to me, it was like, it felt like that. It felt like that, but for Jeeps. Yeah. You know, you're under a bridge, neon lights everywhere, drunk bitches dancing everywhere. It felt like I was about to pull up and there was, you know, Paul Walker and, you know, they're getting in their fucking crawler.
Wait, watch for trees. If there's Paul Walker's around, you gotta watch for trees.
Soon, that's too soon. You leave Paul Walker alone.
I will say though, the wannabe influencers that you see trying to make videos and TikToks and stuff, you're just like, look, man, just have fun. Like, people want to see naturally people having fun. Yeah. Don't force it.
Well, that was it. Even our content from that event, it was all over the damn place.
Yeah, we were drunk.
And even he had said when we got the content, he's like, I can't do shit with this, Kim, because I was like, you've got to make a video. I was like, you can. He's like, no, it's bullshit. Look at this. It's just all to hell. And he ended up pulling it off, and it actually ended up doing really well for us. And we're like, holy shit. But yeah, that was us. It was a struggle for us to get any decent content. So we thought anyway.
Yeah, no, I'm done with Gladiators for a while, man. My next truck is the Raptor, Ranger Raptor. Which I know, Jeremy, you had a Raptor, right?
It's the best truck in the world. It was a real Raptor though. Now, the reason I say that is it was a 6.2 liter V8, as it should be.
That was slow as fuck.
Sound. There was nothing slow about it. It was tuned, fastest truck ever. Even with her fast juke, I could still leave her on curvy roads with the setup this Raptor had on it.
Yeah. No, our good friends have a Gen 1, man. It's fun to ride in.
Well, I think that's what I'm going to do. I've been thinking about the Gladiator, and then I kind of got sidetracked into that new Colorado ZR2 because I think it's beautiful.
Oh, it's a great looking truck.
I do like that. I think that engine's going to be a neat little engine. But honestly, I think none of them will make me happier than a 2014 Raptor again. So I'll save 10 grand. And I mean, those engines are 300,000 mile engines anyway. And I kind of just want the last of the V8. It was so comfortable, so easy to drive. Everything. The only thing I hated about that Raptor was the turning radius. Radius on it is like a football field.
Well, we had a Frontier like that. We understand. Like, it took forever to get around Kim, what would be another vehicle for you that if you had to? I mean, obviously the Jeep sounds like it's not going anywhere, and I know Jeremy has one that doesn't get to go anywhere because they're always adventuring in yours. What would be a fun vehicle you would take?
A fun like a daily or a fun just fun?
Yeah, just either or.
Honestly, the little Jeep. What is the one that?
Oh, the little Renegade.
Yeah, the little Renegade. We had a
little lawnmower.
We did a ride with some Toyotas and some Jeeps, and they took a little Renegade. And that thing went because what was the package they had on it?
They had the off-road stuff for the little Renegade, so it was like the Trailhawk version or whatever.
So I'd love to get a Renegade that matches Bella, and that would be my daily because it's good on gas and yeah.
But the problem is you'd want to lift it. You'd want to all these, like, now that you're in that world,
you've got the bug.
You're gonna buy a car.
No, I wouldn't lift it just because I know that I would want to save that money. I mean, as just a daily driver, it would be the Renegade. Now, if we were buying something else to fuck around with and really start to, really ride it hard, an XJ.
She wants an XJ.
I'd love to have an XJ and put a roll cage in that bitch and put some PRP seats in it and go to fucking off with it. I mean, just
they're getting hard to find.
I put that bitch on a 5-inch lift, some massive tires, and then I would run that bitch off a cliff and not even give a shit. And while he's panicking the whole time, I'm like, baby, get this shot.
And that was the last shot she ever had.
Yeah, that's the worst thing as a YouTuber now is in your back of your mind going, this is a cool shot. I need to get this shot. And it's like you do lose a little bit of the enjoying it a little bit because I guess
you get more joy out of getting the shot.
Yeah, because we've been on trips where he's like, hold on, I gotta stop and get some footage of this, and I'm like, we're on a freaking family trip. Like, can we not stop right now?
We're in the parking lot of Disney World. Nobody fucking cares.
Go?
No, but look at the flex. You're on that parking concrete.
You're up on the curb. You're flexing so hard right now.
Well, it's funny that you say that. It's funny that you say that. So tell the Kentucky story. So we had been in Land Between the Lakes in Kentucky on Valentine's Day. Again, a trip that we went on by ourselves that we shouldn't have. An area that we're not familiar with.
Beautiful place to camp. Beautiful.
Yeah, sure. Well, see, that's what had happened is that it was Valentine's weekend, and we had planned to go to South Carolina, but there was a huge rainstorm coming through, and there was no way in hell I wanted to get caught in the swamps of South Carolina in all that mud, and it was just yeah, it was just going to be miserable. So I said, well, I started looking at places that were within so many hours to us, and that we could miss out on the rain, because I was like, we're going somewhere this weekend. So Kentucky, it was supposed to be about 10 degrees colder, but which meant it was going to be in like the 20s and 30s. But we would miss the rain, and we just needed to make sure we were out of there by Sunday morning because a snowstorm was coming through. So we start on this trail. Go ahead.
So basically, when you're planning a trail in Gaia, you just use your best judgment. She maps the route. Everything looks perfect. She stayed on mostly easy trails. It was Valentine's weekend. We just wanted to get busy in the woods, and so nothing hard. Yeah, and the Burger King bathroom.
You started it
anyway. So what happened is once we started the trail, we lock gate. We kept coming to lock gates, and so then she has to plan on the fly. So she's rerouting to try to get back to where we wanted to be. Well, so that put us on, I think, the 300 trails. And apparently we've learned after the fact that the 300 trails you have no business being on alone, first off. But so what happened, the worst part, was all of a sudden we weren't supposed to get snow till Sunday, and it's Friday, snowing like hell. So we're like, what's going on? This is crazy.
It started Saturday.
Okay, but everything was frozen.
Everything was frozen. But back when I said it was supposed to be 20s and 30s, Friday night, it was 18 degrees.
Yeah.
Woo.
We woke up Saturday morning, it was like 10 degrees.
Yeah.
Sunday morning, again, at no point was it ever supposed to be below 20 the whole weekend. We woke up Sunday morning, it was 7 degrees.
Yeah. So what happened is once we got on this trail, it got rougher and rougher. But the big problem was there were these huge frozen mud holes. And so when mud holes are frozen, I think they're more scary than when they're not frozen, because you don't know how deep they are at all. So she's breaking through these mud puddles. Ice is going everywhere. So I'm outside. I'm filming it all because it's just cool shots, the Jeep going through the ice. Finally, I'm freezing my balls off. So I'm like, all right, I'm done. I'm not filming anything else. I get in the Jeep, and damn it, I get in the Jeep. And I have my phone kind of in my lap. And we come up to one last big, long mud puddle. I guess it was probably, 40 feet? Probably 40 feet long. And she makes an error that we didn't realize was an error at the time. Looking back, we should have.
Again, being newbies.
So you don't know how deep a frozen mud puddle is. So her train of thought, because it was so long and there was, nothing really in front of us to winch from. But either way, her train of thought was, I'm going to put one tire on the shoulder, solid ground, and roll through that way. That way, if these tires spin, we got ground. That mud puddle ended up being about 3 to 4 foot deep.
Way deeper than
it was a hole. It was a damn hole. So all of a sudden, I just get the camera up, and all of a sudden the Jeep breaks through the ice, flips on its side. My mirror busts through the ice. We're completely sideways now, rolling over. So what happens to my phone that I'm filming with? It goes down to the floorboard. We had watched a video on off-road driving like a week or so before, telling you if you're rolling, turn into the roll, gas it out. This bitch actually did it.
Nice.
She literally turned the wheel and floored it. So what happened is when we went into this hole sideways, the whole Jeep hit, and when she turned the wheel and gassed it, we almost shot up out of the water like a jet ski. Like ice was sliding across the hood, and we come straight up out the hole and just land. And when we land, everything stops. There's steam going everywhere because it was so cold, and the Jeep was just completely submerged. And
the first thing I say is, "Did you get the shot? Did you get the shot?" Point of this story.
So we're just fucking shocked. We're like, "Oh my god! Oh my fucking god!"
We almost died.
We just went back and forth like,
yeah.
So
we're high-fiving, making sure we didn't die.
Yeah. So then I get out and I'm looking around and everything looks fine, or what I thought looked fine. I'm like, all right, okay, let's head on. Right. As soon as we start to head, we hear, and I'm like, that's not right. So I get out and I start looking, and I realize that her rear tire is out about 5 inches on this side and scrubbing the frame on this side.
Uh-oh.
So when we flipped over, it snapped the track bar, or the track bar mount.
Yeah.
So there was nothing holding the axle side to side anymore. And so I'm like, oh, holy fuck. We had like 1 bar of service. No, we didn't even have that. We barely had that. We walked until we got 1 bar.
I got 1 bar.
And called a buddy of ours, fully mission capable, Travis, because that's how we had wet our chops rolling with Spartan Overland and fully mission capable. That's how she kind of got her trail bravery. Mm-hmm. And so he's like, yeah, man, do you have ratchet straps?
I was about to say, do you strap this axle down to the frame?
We had tons of toe straps. We had everything but ratchet straps. And so the only thing we could come up with was, all right, we're not going to go forward because we walked the trail and it was getting rough. So we were going to try to go back the way we came. So the only thing we could think of is let's go back through the hole the other direction to try to push that axle back over. And so that's what she did, and it worked. It pushed it over about a 1/2 inch to 1 inch. So it wasn't scrubbing anymore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so at that point, it was Friday. We had just gotten there. Was it Saturday?
It was Saturday that we. Yeah, so, I mean, at this point, we knew. I mean, we had enough food for 3 days. The plan was to be on the trail anyway. We knew that we couldn't get anybody to work on it on Sunday, so we were like, okay, we'll just camp.
Yeah.
So like, we don't have the supplies to do it. So,
and honestly, it was still to this day probably one of our most fun, most enjoyable trips. I mean, once we got within about 1.5 miles of trail left before we got to the main road, we just parked there in a beautiful spot. There was nobody out there because this is the most snow. This ended up being the most snow that Kentucky's ever had. And
the snowstorm came in that early that next morning.
We had steak, we had wine, we had a great Valentine's. I think we laid around naked in our Jeep, as cold as it was, playing Monopoly Deal. And
great.
The next morning, though, that was when things changed. Sunday morning, I woke up and my beard was frozen.
He had ice.
The entire beard was ice because breathing the condensation out, it was freezing straight into my beard because it was 7. All of our water, the minute that you would open it, it was frozen.
We were warm as long as we stayed under the blanket. We were fine because, like we said, that it is really warm in that Jeep. Standing naked under the blanket was fantastic. It's just
I don't like you need to put the water under there with you.
I know, right? We should have. But so at that point, we looked on the map because we were, like I said, we were only about 1 mile or 2 from the main road, and we saw that there was a little hotel. What was it? It was only like 2 miles away, right?
Something like that.
So, and it's snowing like hell. So what we thought was, you know what? As deep as it's snowing, I don't want to have to put this Jeep in 4-wheel drive with this track bar like this. So let's go ahead and coast on out to town, and just get a hotel room. So that's what we did. We found, and we were going like 10 miles an hour with our flashers on down the interstate to get to this hotel that was 2 miles away. But there was nobody out because it was so much snow. So it wasn't a bad ride or anything. Yeah. And man, we stayed at this neat little motel. And they ate like in a fish camp across the road. And it was just a really cool Valentine's Day. And the next morning, AAA stood me up. Apparently, their nearest AAA tow truck guy was like in Ohio from Kentucky.
What?
And so they told me he was going to be there. 3 hours goes by, and they call and said, we can't make it. Can you wait till the weather clears up? So I was like, dude, I didn't tell him I was at a hotel. I'm like, I'm out here in a parking lot, 7 fucking degrees. And I've been here 3 hours waiting on you. So either way, I go and I call a local tow truck, and these guys were phenomenal. They were just good old boys. The shop was full of razors. They were off-roaders. They put the Jeep up on the lift, and we were like, have you guys ever seen this much snow? They were like, no, this never happened. But we get in there, and they re-weld everything. So they tow us, weld everything, and it was for all of it. For the tow, and the tow was like, it was a long way.
About 15 miles.
Yeah, it was about 15-mile tow. and the welding and fabrication. It was what, less than $200?
$200.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's what they charged us.
I thought for sure that they were going to stick it to us with it being bad weather and us being out of town, but no, they were amazing. And they even called us the next day to make sure that we made it home okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Wow.
That's
If
awesome.
you watch those videos, there's 2 videos. There's a Land Between the Legs part 1 and 2, and that was my first attempt at building suspense. So the first one ends as we're flipping. But if you pause it, you'll be able to see in the side mirror how the ice is like 1 inch from the mirror.
Yeah. That's awesome.
So yeah, those videos, they're maybe boring or horribly filmed, but we had a blast.
Who cares, man? Like once again, I love that you guys are just doing your thing. You know, be damned what everybody else thinks. We're carving our own paths. Guys, go over to Down South Off-Road, and I've got the sticker, and it sounds like they actually
Camp naked.
So if you're ever at a state park and you see this white JKU sitting out there,
be aware.
Be
they
aware.
might
Make it sound like a van with free candy.
Knock first is how I'm gonna say. Knock on the window.
Oh, he has a shirt that says, "I'm not stupid. You got to show me the candy before I get in."
Hell yeah, that's right. But go over. Obviously, you guys have had a big week, so hopefully, people watch this in replays and come check out your channels because it's fun. We put our stamp on it because we like fun people, man. Just people doing their things. And Kelly's got a poll. And,
I don't have a poll.
I had
you had a poll.
What was it?
I've got a poll as well.
Hey. That's the after show.
I just thought we were all
2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive. It doesn't matter what you drive. 4-wheel drive is 81. What the hell was the question?
It was not supposed to make sense. It was stupid.
Because it doesn't make sense. Okay,
right.
so the poll was 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive. It doesn't matter what you drive.
Our slogan.
4-wheel drive, 81%. It doesn't matter what you drive, 16%, and 2-wheel drive, 2%. I'm not really sure what the question was, so I think your poll's stupid.
Thank you.
Hey, somebody said we're swingers. We are not swingers.
Just because we like to be naked does not mean that we want to be naked with you.
Right.
I'm a teddy bear to you. I'm a teddy bear.
Hey, easy with bear. That bear talk. You got to be easy with that.
Hey, we didn't know what the damn pineapple was until a while back.
So some coworkers and I were talking about that a couple weeks ago.
Some pineapples, and I was like,
You watch TikTok enough, and suddenly you know what that means.
Yes, yeah. I'm 45 this year, and I had to watch TikTok 3 months ago to learn that. I'm like, well, shit.
So to clear up that swinger thing there, because so to clear that up,
they've told y'all they camp solo.
You don't drive a Ferrari so that you can park that bitch in the garage and hide it from everybody. I want to flash it around town. I want people to stare at it in the parking lot and wonder what it's like to drive it.
Bitch,
I feel the exact same way about my little queen here. But don't get in my car or touch it.
Don't touch his car. Basically, you see a white JKU, don't you touch it.
Don't be licking the windows. None of that.
Guys, go watch their channel, man. Yeah, obviously, you guys are a lot of fun to talk to. Their videos are just as fun. Anything coming up that we can talk about real quick that you guys video wise you got coming up? Any Airbnbs that you've experienced lately?
So we're doing some cool
So we'll
ones.
have one. We're going to be doing one in Nashville.
What? You were in our town?
No, we're going
to be.
Oh,
nice.
Nice.
We have plans to do one in Nashville. We are going to do another one in Bristol. Believe it or not, we're actually going to do one in Hickory, which is very local to us. But we're going to do one there. I'm the one that does like all the planning and that sort of thing. And I've been telling myself for the last 2-3 weeks that him and I need to sit down and really go through the calendar and go ahead and get everything planned out because, it's time to do that. So no, I don't really have anything else planned.
I think we're going to have a cool video this year that's going to be a bit different. We're going to be camping at the Highland Games, hopefully, if we can get the spot.
Oh, very cool.
We're going to be camping at the Highland Games. We've got our kilts already. So that'll be 4 days of a muddy Scottish party.
I was watching Braveheart last night, so
nice.
We are not going to bed to Braveheart tonight, just so you know.
Come on, man. People getting their limbs chopped off. He gets his head cut off in the end. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert, he dies.
Yeah, he dies. He's not around. It was what I forget, the 1400s.
I don't know. I've not actually seen the movie.
You've never seen that movie?
Somebody said you guys that we're a late night Cinemax show tonight, not a family show. I'm so sorry.
Let's be honest. Monday night's not necessarily a family show either, folks.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, we talk about reservations. Anyways, go check out their channels. Guys, I appreciate y'all coming on tonight. We definitely want to check on you guys down the road to see what crazy adventures you guys have come up with next. I would say it's always fun to talk to you because we've only talked in text, so I can't say that.
But this time was really fun.
It's almost like you're talking to us because you when you watch the videos, you kind of get engulfed in that.
It definitely they do live streams, so go over to their live streams. We'll
have to do better.
Yeah. And you can see what's in their background from the next video. So whether it be 2-wheel drive, guys, 4-wheel drive, does it matter what you drive, Kelly?
It doesn't.
This has been your All Terrain Nation, and we are out. Peace, everybody.